They have finally released the footage from that ridiculous fake insurrection from January 6th. It turns out it wasn't much of an insurrection at all. I encourage you to find the videos on social media. You'll see Capitol Police and security literally shaking hands with the so-called insurrectionists and letting them into the building. The entire narrative, the entire cover, has been blown, ladies and gentlemen. It was a farce. In other news, that idiot Justin Trudeau actually said this. Listen.
Well, first of all, we are a government that has always exercised fiscal restraint.
What in the actual fuck? Can you believe it? Can you believe he said that, let alone that he actually, in all his moronic glory, believes what he is saying? Good God, my friends, you can't even make this up. I wonder if he actually believes Sophie is dating a successful doctor, or if he talks himself out of that reality as well. What an embarrassment. Here, let me play it for you one more time. Listen to this again.
Well, first of all, we are a government that has always exercised fiscal restraint.
He actually believes it, or he's gaslighting the shit out of Canadians. Or trying to anyway. For the most part, he is failing. Polls show this twat is sinking deeper and deeper into unpopularity in this country. His chances of winning the next election now, according to the Post-Canadian Election Tracker, is now 25%. He is finished, my friends. Good riddance. Here is some more news to embarrass Canadians. Trudeau is having trouble supporting Israel. He recently received a Twitter lecture from the Israeli Prime Minister as well. The guy's an absolute joke. Here is a headline from the Globe and Mail. Trudeau says Israel hurting peace prospects in Gaza, decries Canadians, lashing out. First of all, no, it's not Canadians that are lashing out. It's a bunch of pro-Palestine, pro-terrorist immigrants living in Canada who are quote-unquote lashing out. This is yet another case of Justin Trudeau blaming Canadians and everyone else for his shortcomings. There was actually a great article last month at Post-Canadian called, "If Trudeau is really a psychopath, this will happen." I suggest you read it. Our Prime Minister's narcissism is undeniable at this point. Don't try to tell us that Canadians are lashing out. It's rubbish, you lying sack of excrement. Anyhow, I digress. I don't know if you have heard of this woman who has been living in a small town in Saskatchewan who calls herself the Queen of Canada. Have you heard about her? Anyway, her name is Romana Dilda, Romana Didalo, or Dildo, or whatever, and she truly calls herself the Queen of Canada. She has a website called the Kingdom of Canada, which is funny because she's a fucking queen, but she allegedly has done and said some heinous things. Of course, our media likes to call her a far-right QAnon conspiracy theorist, anything to get themselves off, but she has called for some of our politicians to be executed, among other things. And apparently she has thousands of followers across the country. This little town called Richmond is scared shitless of her. Anyhow, I suppose we'll see how all that plays out. It doesn't lack humour, that's for sure. Have you noticed how many Canadians, I guess we might call them normies, just don't pay attention to anything? They don't follow news or current events, they don't know much history, and when you try to engage them in conversations, they have nothing to contribute, because they don't know anything. Have you met people like this? I find there is more and more of them lately. You ask them about Ukraine and Israel, and they have no fucking idea what's going on. They barely know what Justin Trudeau has done or not done. I'm not sure if these people have just tuned everything out because they're scared and sad, or if they're just that stupid. What do you think? I mean, what do these know-nothings do and read? Are they just watching all of these manufactured corporate television, procedural dramas and sitcoms? What the fuck are they doing? How do they not know anything? So, I want to read you a news headline now from CTV News. This happened last week. You have probably heard. Here is the headline: Canada operating under assumption Rainbow Bridge vehicle explosion is terror-related sources. That was a CTV News headline from the afternoon of November 22nd. Let me read it for you again. Canada operating under assumption Rainbow Bridge vehicle explosion is terror-related. Now, take a listen to this. This is a reporter from Canadian Press asking the Conservative leader a deceitful question. Listen.
Do you think it was responsible for you to call yesterday's explosion by the checkpoint at the Rainbow Bridge terrorism when no U.S. or Canadian officials said that was or authorities said that was the case, and when the New York governor also said there was no evidence to suggest terrorism activity?
Actually, you're wrong. You're a CP? Okay, so CP, by the way, CP, just for everyone's knowledge, did have to make 3 corrections for falsehoods that they put into a single article. I think that might be unprecedented. I'm actually thinking about checking with the Guinness Book of World Records to see if there's ever been a news agency that has had to issue 3 corrections for patent falsehoods that they admit they had been made in one single article, and now you've made yet another falsehood in your question. Where you are wrong is that CTV reported that the government of Canada was presuming that the incident was terrorist. So, yeah, that's what I said in my remarks. You're right. It was a media report. No, there's no distinction. What I said, and I was right, was that there were media reports of a terror-related event. By your admission, there were media reports of a terror-related event. And that media report, according to CTV, unless you're questioning their integrity now, came from security officials in the Trudeau government. So do you think the CTV was irresponsible in putting out that tweet?
This is the kind of thing that is really beginning to wake ordinary people up. The absolute deceit and attempted gaslighting by that reporter is astonishing. It just seems so fucking brazen and shameless, doesn't it? Unfucking believable. This country is becoming a dystopia. And our friend Justin Trudeau has pledged another $125 million to these so-called journalists and the media. Unreal. Of course, fake news about that incident began spreading within hours. The actual news reported it, originally, as a potential terror incident. They cited actual sources inside the Canadian government and law enforcement, only to eventually correct the record and change the story. It almost makes you feel like this was intentional misdirection of some kind. For what purpose, who knows? Perhaps so the Liberals and their lapdogs in media could try to smear Pierre Poilievre for spreading disinformation. On Ukraine, Justin Trudeau has resorted to yet again blaming everything on everyone but himself. This time, Conservatives voted against a free trade agreement with Ukraine. According to the Prime Minister, this is because the evil ghosts of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement are influencing the Conservative leader and all of us who are fed up with wasting billions on Ukraine. Can you believe it? Trudeau said, quote, "The real story is the rise of a right-wing American MAGA influence, thinking that has made Canadian Conservatives, who used to be among the strongest defenders of Ukraine, turn their backs on something Ukraine needs in its hour of need." Unquote. What an utter buffoon. Everything is always Donald Trump's fault or Stephen Harper's fault. This moron never takes accountability for anything, nor does he acknowledge the fact that Canadians have a lot of their own problems right now. Housing, inflation, a probable recession around the corner, you name it. We need a Prime Minister and a government that is going to focus on the problems at home. Like I say, time and time again, an election cannot come soon enough. That's it for me, folks. Have a Merry Christmas. I may have a nice little Christmas special coming up. Stay tuned and stay safe, my friends. Until next time.